Ryan and I are here with another Gen Con preview. This is part of our Road to Gen Con coverage. Today we have Metrorunner from Thunderworks Games. Definitely not set in the world of Ulos, which we've said before in our most anticipated list. This is set in more of a cyber-punky sort of
definitely a cyber-punky
realm
style universe.
You are picking up contracts, going around this rondel, trying to effectively collect resources, spend those resources to do missions, and then potentially do some set collection with those missions under your board, enhancing your abilities. It's a pretty quick playing. On the lighter side, really, this is a pretty accessible game with a few little things that you can do that maybe are little fun mini games.
Yeah, I would almost call this like Gateway Plus, which is like I think a big term that's coming around right now, because what you're doing in the game, both in the way that you're taking your turns and in the way that you're scoring points, is fairly easy to explain. However, there is a puzzle there, and that's where the actual meat of the game comes in, is how you're going to be efficient, especially with this rondel. But as you see moving around the rondel, there's not a ton of different actions. In fact, two of the actions are pretty basic in just getting the contracts or just getting resources. You're going to have to do these because every contract needs some combination of resources, but managing those and determining how many stops you're going to make along the way is a big part of that puzzle. So like I said, easy to explain that, but maybe a little bit more difficult to plan out exactly how you're efficiently going to take your turns.
Yeah, and the tighter aspect of getting around this rondel is to actually complete those missions, because once you have the missions in your hand, they're each assigned to a different district. For instance, this one needs to be completed in the blue district. So if I find myself in the yellow district, I'm generally going to be a little bit of a trip around it before I can complete this mission. However, it does give you some boost actions, a variety of different little boost actions you can use these credits for. I am out, but you can use these credits for them to do a number of different things. One of those is to use a car service, which allows you to spend a credit and basically move to any location you want. Now, those credits aren't exactly free-flowing, but they're also not completely tight, because as you complete missions, you're almost always going to get a credit. When you stuff missions under your player board at the bottom, one of the options is to potentially get credits, maybe even 2 more cubes. There's a lot of the things that you do in the game, completing missions, etc., that will also give you those cubes that you're needing, so you don't always have to stop at this space. This space at the beginning of the game is it feels like a throwaway space.
Right, yeah, you're
only getting one cube. You have to go up one of these tracks, and as you get further, when you go to that space, you might get 2, you might get 3. Really, when you get 3, then that spot becomes a more worthwhile spot, because you can take cubes of any color. So you might have a few missions in your hand, and you're like, oh, okay, I'll stop there and get 2 of these and 1 of these, and now I'm set to do 2 missions.
Yeah, completing those missions or contracts really is kind of the meat of the game. As you're deciding where to place them, you do have to kind of balance and have a plan. You do need to have a plan, because each one of these little sections under your player board gives you something when you place it there, in addition to the mission giving you something. But there's these contracts up top that you are trying to complete by having very specific colors of missions. There are 3 columns, each can hold 3 cards. You can complete up to 3 of these possible contracts, but they require you to have specific colors. So if you don't kind of look ahead, and maybe you end up in a situation where you've put 3 black missions in the same one and realize, oh, now I can't, that column's dead. So maybe you don't want to put them in all 3 in the same, even if you really want the benefit for going into that column. So
True.
You do need to weigh that out.
Yeah, I would say get better if you're putting all 3 black there, unless they're all happen to be in one card. It gives you a little, like Ryan said, it's kind of Gateway Plus, because I think a family could get this after they've already played some real gateway games, because it does give you a few things to think about. It's not difficult to play in that plus sort of scenario.
Yeah, right.
The plus is if you want to get good, because you can really look at this game and think of it competitively and go, okay, there's a little bit more of a puzzle for me to play here, because I want to do this as efficiently as possible, so that, okay, I'm going to go here, I'm going to pick these things up, and then I'm set because I have a yellow and a red mission, which are the next 2 areas that I'm going to go through. Orchestrating all that takes some forward thinking a little bit. You have to take a look at the missions that are up here. You have to take a look at the resources that you have, the resources that come out. And speaking of the resources that come out, this is probably the coolest, and
Yeah.
probably
It's
the biggest gimmick of the game.
I would call it the centerpiece of the whole game.
Centerpiece is a better way. When I say gimmick, I mean it in the most positive way.
It's the
but
fun.
It is,
it's the fun part.
and
It's
it
the
is
most fun part.
literally the centerpiece of the game, and that's this hacking section. One of the actions that you can take at a location in any of the districts is to hack this. You have these 2 cards up here that give you effectively this little network that you need to connect of nodes. At the beginning of the game, you're only focused on connecting the green nodes in order to get the main benefit. But as you go up this top track here, you're going to unlock spaces on your player board that say, oh, now I can not only connect the green ones, but if I also connect to that same network, the blue or the pink, I'm going to get these secondary rewards too. When you do that, you're coming out in here and manipulating these tiles. Now, it's not just manipulation willy-nilly. You have 2 manipulations, and there's things like rotate a tile, swap 2 adjacent tiles. You can shift the tiles by moving one like this and moving them all down, making sure not to rotate them. And every player has a character at the beginning of the game. And there's a lot of these. There's a handful of characters here.
Yeah.
And the biggest difference between all these characters, really the only difference, is they all have a hacking ability that's unique to them. So I can manipulate things in a very specific and special way that Ryan cannot, and vice versa.
Right, and this is, like I said, this is where you want to come to take your actions, because this is going to give you a variety of rewards. Early on, it might just be moving you up the tracks. Some of these rewards give you cubes, give you money, but then as you unlock those, the triangle and square or diamond, you start to get more and more and more rewards, making this more lucrative. And this is just, it's a fun puzzle. Can I do it in 2 moves? You can pay cubes, you can pay cards to take extra. So, and this is a part 2 when I said Gateway Plus, when you're playing with a family and you've got kid, you can help them out. You can point,
Yes, for sure you can help them out.
It's a good way to kind of learn that spatial puzzle. And it's not too punishing in that it does let you, you can come in there with up to 10 cubes and you could take as many moves really as you want, and you will get it.
Then, once you've done it and taken all the things that you can, you flip that card over, and this is how cubes get populated in these areas. So we'd put a black cube in the black area and a black cube in the red area right now. And now, whenever anyone completes a mission, which is what you have to do in the district. So if I'm here in this blue district, I could take a location action. But from any of those locations, instead, I could take the district action, which is either to take a blue cube and all the cubes in here, or complete one of my blue missions and take all the cubes there. So as the cubes really fill up in those spaces like we have right here, then you're looking, oh, you know what, maybe I'll get a purple mission so I can go over there. When I complete it, I get a purple and a red immediately. There's things to look out for sure.
And that really leans into something that David pointed out earlier, is that different players or different groups are going to play this game a little bit differently. In that, I am more the gamer that looks for those opportunities and says, okay, well, there's 2 here. This is the time to go complete my contract. I can take that blue and the red, or purple and the red. And then you've got some powers on the bottom of your cards that maybe say, well, now my reds are wild, so now I know I can complete this one. And yes, you can do that. Or you can just say, I'm just going to move to the next one and I'm going to do the action. And some groups might just do that. And that's fine too.
And that's what makes it a gateway-ish, a gateway plus sort of game, is because if you play with a mix of people who are kind of new to gaming, there's some people at the table just like, oh, is it my turn? Yeah, I'll do this. Give me that cube. And they're not really thinking too hard about it. You can still play this game like that. But I would say you will be rewarded with a little bit more of a competitive forward thought. Not to mention, speaking of forward thinking, if you are going to take the hack action, give it a little thought before you get there. Because if you just go there and think, and like we said, you can probably get it done for the most case if you have things to spend. Yeah. But if you go there and you're like, okay, let's see, what's going on here? First of all, you might spend a lot of cubes. Second of all, you might take more time than some of the other players at the table want you to, because you can really look at that and go, okay, how is the most efficient way I can manipulate things to achieve this mission right here?
Now, the last thing I want to say is that we didn't get to play with this, but they actually have a small mini expansion that adds a little bit of a layer of complexity, a little bit more depth, in that it gives you pick up and deliver. So you'll have certain areas on the map where you have to go to pick up something, and then certain locations where you have to go to deliver those things. And I would like to see that. They should have that available at Gen Con as well.
Probably.
With the game. But that adds for me a little bit motivation to maybe take some of the actions that are less efficient, and maybe we'll add another layer of decision making to where do I want to go. You don't always want to go to the best possible spot, because maybe those rewards for delivering there are juicy enough that it outweighs what you were planning on doing anyway. So
Yeah.
I think that'll be an interesting layer on top of this.
Yeah, so if you are a medium or heavyweight gamer, while this game might not generally be the kind of game for your table, with some of that extra content, and maybe if the game does well, we'll see more of that content. It brings it up into that realm. But I'd say this is a nice Gateway Plus game set in a world that doesn't usually get the Gateway Plus treatment.
Right, and I would say too, we need these games, right?
Yeah.
Like before, people are like, well, that game looks too light for me. Just remember, you're not the only gamer that's at Gen Con.
100%.
This is going to be really great for people that don't want a 3-hour long, heavy,
Oh yeah, this is a fast
meaty game. This game is like an hour.
Yeah,
So
yeah, an hour at most for sure. As soon as someone goes up to the top of these tracks or past the 10th space, that's going to trigger the end of the game, as well as a couple other things. But I think that's going to be the thing that triggers it in most cases. And you can really push that by going up one of those tracks, by completing some of these hacks, specific missions. That can be here before you know it. So it can be a really quick game.
yeah, and that being said, I think this is going to be a hot game at Gen Con.
I do.
Sure.
It's going to
by
be.
presence alone, I think this is going to be a hot game.
It will be one of the ones at the Thunderworks booth that I think gets a lot of attention, along with the rest of their games. But if you have any questions about it, please make them in the comments below. If you're going to be at Gen Con, come say hi. If you see us, wave to us. Come up and say, hey, David. Hey, Ryan. We hate your show. No, say we love your show. That's what we want to hear.
Just tell us your truth. Your truth.
And if you're watching this before Gen Con, and you're coming to Gen Con, and you're not in our Discord, join our Discord, because we've got a lot of things going on there, one of which is all the information you need if you want to sign up and come to our community event, which is Saturday night. We're going to have all the details in there. We probably have them all there right now as you're watching this. So get into our Discord, check that out, and join us on Saturday night. Until next time, make sure everyone has fun at the table, and we'll see you then.